Hi, Critter friends. This is Freya, and thank you so much for being here. So I didn't know if there would be any interest for me to continue doing this series, but I was asked if I could just, make another video about the way I progress. So I'm gonna do that. And while I am working on this, I'm gonna be talking about why less supplies fuel creativity. Now, there's also the converse, which is more supplies, fuel creativity in different ways as well. But for this video, while I work, I'm just going to talk about the pros of having less art supplies. But before I do that, I'm just going to dive right in to looking at this particular spread just more in depth. So I'm going to bring it up closer. I allowed everything to dry naturally, and I don't particularly like the whole of it, but I like parts of it, and that's a great start. Like, you guys, honestly, the thing with perfectionism is I know I used to be this way, so I'm only going to speak for myself, but I used to be so hard on myself. Like, I have to like everything about it. I have to, enjoy the entire process of art making. I put all these like restrictions on myself, whether they were conscious or subconscious, they were there. And now I tend to look at things like, hey, if I like one part of it, that's a great start. But actually, I am liking a lot of it. Like I said, when I look at the whole of this, I still feel like it's not really cohesive, because it started off with there just being a portrait on this page, and this page I think was blank. There might have been a few words on it, and I had trouble bringing over that energy, those colors, etc., onto this page because like many weeks had passed, so I didn't really remember all the colors I used, etc. But I do really like this part over here. Like, it is really just pulling me in. And there are also other parts of this that, are interesting to me. I'm loving just the depth. Like, I am really loving the paint quality, etc. So one of the things I did is I ran out of my cashew chalk paint, and I was really holding off on buying it, but then I decided, you know what, I really do need it. So I'm also running out of my blue Stabilo pencils, which are like a staple, and I've been holding off on purchasing them, and I think I'm down to my last one or two, and I'm gonna be purchasing this as well, and also my Liquitex ink. But other than that, I'm not going to be buying any more art supplies. And this is a great segue into talking about why less supplies fuel creativity. But like I said, there's also a converse, why more art supplies, or new art supplies. I wouldn't say more. I wouldn't say like, buying like everything that you can afford. I wouldn't say that. But new art supplies also fuel creativity, but just in a different way. But for this video, I'm just going to be talking about less art supplies, as I just bought a new cashew paint, but I needed it. So before I start yapping about this, I just want to tell you that the way I look at this spread is I look at it like this is a great foundation, but now I have to pull it out. And obviously this is just a background. There's no images on here, etc. But in my mind, I'm thinking I have to pull this, I have to pull this. Let me see how I can explain this. I have to pull the, not beauty, but I have to pull the what is the word I'm looking for? I'm not at a loss for words easily, but I am trying to explain it. But in my mind, I'm looking at it like I have to pull this out. I have to pull the foundation, the structure, the jewels. That's a word that pops in my mind. But I have to pull out the things that I am drawn to. I've got to pull it out. So I know that's not very explanatory, but I don't want to say beauty because, first of all, beauty is so subjective, number one. Number two, To me, I think ugly is beautiful, because ugly is unique. It's interesting. It invites curiosity. It invites me in. It pulls me in. It keeps me looking longer. Whereas, beauty, I mean, besides the fact that it's so subjective, um, it it's kind of boring, honestly. I hate to say that, but I've been really fortunate enough to visit so many art museums, and after a while, it's like after you've seen like thousands and thousands and thousands of the same, painting style, statue, whatever, I'm like, I want to pull my hair out. I don't want to see that anymore. I want to see ugly. I want to see Chile. I want to see Van Gogh. I want to see something that's gonna keep my interest. Anyways, I'm sorry. Got off on a tangent there, but that's okay. So, um, I do have some notes here, and I'm going to talk about why using less art supplies is conducive to creativity. But sometimes, I think it's helpful when I do struggle with my words as well, because I think like it can just be a more accurate representation of what's really going on in my head. Anyways, so I'm going to work on this, and what my goal is to try to keep the parts that I want. Um, but anyways, while I work on this, I'm going to be talking about the less supplies. So less supplies also means less overload. Sometimes when we have too many art supplies, we can just become overwhelmed. Like it can be too much. And when you have less art supplies, you can focus more on whatever you're doing rather than, oh my God, there's all these art supplies. Another great reason why less art supplies is so great for creativity is it invites solutions and inventions. Like when you don't have a lot, when you don't have what you need sometimes, you can be forced to think outside the box and work in ways you never would consider if you did have all your art supplies. And that's not just true for art supplies. It's true for a lot of different things. Less is more. Another good reason is you can master the tools that you do have. Like if you have too many art supplies, it can be like, okay, you know how to use different art supplies in just a very surface way. But if you have few, you can go in depth. You can be like, hey, I wonder what would happen if I XYZ. I wonder what would happen if I mix it with this. I wonder what. So you can get to really know the art supplies that you do have. Another great reason is you're going to have stylistic consistency, and this ties into your visual language. Like if you just have too many art supplies, your visual language could get watered down, especially if you're kind of, just shaky a little bit in your visual language. Like you're just kind of like starting out like, oh, I don't know, or you're in between visual languages. Like you used to have this visual language and now you're changing. And you're just kind of a bit shaky. I think less art supplies is so much better. It's so much easier to hone in on your visual language. Another great reason is there's a faster setup time. So you're not going to take like, an hour to set up your art supplies, your art station, whatever. And that's going to, then it's going to be more likely that you do paint. And it's also faster cleanup. Another great reason is you can experiment within boundaries. So if you have very like set boundaries, you can push up right against those boundaries rather than if it's like everything's wide open. Like you've just got all these art supplies, all these different colors. And a great example actually is color. Like when I first started painting, like many, many years ago, I thought that the more colors I had, the better I would get at knowing how to use those colors, which, seems logical, if you just kind of think about it from a very surface level. But what I found to be actually true is that the less colors you have, strangely enough, the more I am going to learn about color, the better I'm going to get at color. And it sounds counterintuitive, but that's what I found to be true. Another great reason is you become more resourceful. You know, you learn how to use things that you wouldn't think to use for your art, like junk mail, you know, packaging, uh, just stuff you find, stuff you would throw away. You can use all of these things in your art. Tea bags. I mean, tea bags have just changed my art so radically. I cannot even tell you. So it just forces you to become more resourceful and to look at everyday items in new ways. Another great reason is you can learn how to focus on ideas over your tools. So what I mean by that is, you know, you can focus on the stories you want to tell, the, you know, composition, your visual language, all of those things, rather than, oh, I have all these things and all these art supplies and, you know, those are your tools, right? You need your tools, but to have too many tools is a distraction. And another great reason, you guys, is it reduces perfectionism. Because if you have too many art supplies, too many tools at your disposal, I find for me, I don't know if this is true for everybody, but you kind of become like a perfectionist a little bit. Like, oh my God, you know, I have this brand new art journal and, you know, it costs like $30 and, you know, there's this blank white page and every page has to be, you know, blah, blah, blah. It can lead to that. It really can. You have really expensive art supplies. You have a lot of them. You have paints that are, you know, worth like, you know, $20 for a small tube, especially with watercolors. I mean, you know, you can really spend $500 on a few watercolor tubes and, you know, and don't even talk about the brushes, right? It can lead to a sense of perfectionism. See, now I am really loving this so much more because I feel like I have pushed a lot of the stuff that wasn't really calling me. And it could look a bit like boring because there's so much of the cream, but I am really loving it because it makes the bright parts really stand out. So I feel like I have pulled out the parts that I really love. And yeah, so talking about perfectionism, yeah, it can absolutely hinder your creativity to have too many art supplies. Now, that being said, you know, conversely, there are also great reasons to not have a lot of art supplies. I feel that clogs things up if you have just too much. But to try out new art supplies is also going to fuel your creativity. It's just going to do it in different ways. But that's going to be, I don't want to confuse things. So I'm not going to talk about that in this particular video. But getting back to this spread over here, I am really loving it. Like, I'm really, really liking what is going on because now I can focus on you know, the parts that I like. And by juxtaposition, the colorful parts are more colorful. And I do have some Posca markers here, and I am going to work over top of this and make some marks, but I'm going to let this dry completely. Once the chalk paint dries, it is such a beautiful ground to take anything. You can write on it, you can journal over top of it, you can use Posca markers. You can really just go to town. So anyways, you guys, I hope that this video has been helpful. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.